the odd appearance of cows will occasionally cause utterances of horse. We don't want it to be that my utterance of horse means cow in virtue of the causal relations between some horse tokenings and cows. So the situation is, the causal relations look just the same. Horse causes you to say horse, cow causes you to say horse. So the causal relations are the same, and if causation is the basis of representation, then why aren't the semantic connections just the same too? Why doesn't horse stand for cow just as well as it stands for horse? What's going on? There must be something we missed here. Because we said the causal connection is what generates standards of right and wrong. The causal connection is what generates reference. So why doesn't it generate reference in the horse-cow case too?
Yep. Is this a completely different kind of causal relation than you're actually talking about in the causal theory of reference? Because it seems like a causal theory of reference is whether that I saw an object and it caused me to identify it as having this name that somebody actually does. This kind of object has this name, and the causal chain is being the same being communicated.
Right.
So I don't see how that is really a response to is really a
Yeah.
causal theory.
That is interesting. So you have an initial dubbing ceremony. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, suppose this happens. Suppose that we have taken Fodor for a trip in the country, right? Now, very influential Fodor, right? Now, at this point, let's suppose it's some kind of Stone Age Fodor, right? But at this point, no one. I mean, the reason I make it Stone Age is let's suppose that no one has yet given the species of horses a definite name, right? And Fodor sees a cow and says, "Let's call them horses." But the people around him take it that he means to be identifying horses. They just use the word horse thenceforth to identify horses. In fact, maybe that's down to the present day. The initial dubbing ceremony just happened to involve a cow. Does that mean we're all making a mistake when we say horse? Because actually, the word, did we but know it, it really applies only to cows. Or does it mean that it applies to both horses and cows? Or is the initial dubbing ceremony, it just doesn't matter anymore?
Well, it seems like in a case like that, there's something going on. I don't know what the example analogous to the case of Spot.
That's right. That's exactly right. You're right. There's an unintended shift of reference.
Yeah.
Right. It's like the Spot case and it's like the Madagascar case. Yeah. You remember Madagascar? You know Madagascar.
I think I don't know about that.
All right. Everybody else remembers Madagascar. Happy days. No? Oh, well, right. Okay, anyway, Spot. Right, you remember Spot. Okay. The point is, if there can be unintended shift of reference, it robs the initial dubbing ceremony of its significance. It means that even when there isn't an unintended shift of reference, the important thing for what the standards of right and wrong governing the term are what's going on now. Yeah? And what's going on now is this kind of mixed situation that sometimes the word horse is being used in response to horses, and sometimes it's being used in response to cows.
Well, even then, I think it's even without the initial dubbing ceremony, I think what I took to be essential to the causal theory of reference was the means by which the names were learned, the causal chain
Fine, yeah.
acquired. And this doesn't seem to be addressing that causal chain. It seems to be addressing the causal chain of what causes me to recognize something as having it.
Yeah, it is addressing the second. The first thing is interesting. I mean, that is a kind of thing that you might give as a theory to explain the distinction here, right? Because then you say, well, causal relations are not the same. Yeah. So you're just working with this kind of on the run, you might say the causal relations that matter for reference are the ones that figure in the learning of the word, and the ones that happen later, well, they might be just mistakes. Yeah. That has some life, that has some promise, that is a theory. I mean, the immediate problem that occurs to me is that if you think about a child, I mean, a child learning to use a word will look at practically anything and say practically anything. It looks at the desk and says pig. You see what I mean? If you go back too far in learning, then it would turn out that practically any word is referring to practically anything. Yeah. You'd have to hit some golden age in the life of the child just after it's all that jumble, but before it starts to make mistakes, before it starts to call the cows horses. Yeah. But there may be no such golden age. Yeah. But that's just the problem that occurs to me immediately. I don't want to say that you might not be able to work through that. Yeah. But that is the right shape of a solution. Yeah. Plain enough what the problem is. Any other solutions? If anything is popping into your head as, surely you could say this, then that would be interesting. It's a really hard problem, right? Is that a correct summary of the mood of the meeting? That is a real problem, it's a really hard problem. Yeah. To keep on learning. Yeah. Yeah, okay, I'm not sure if that's a helpful remark in the sense that it actually makes it worse rather than better, but I actually agree. There is some sense in which we all carry on learning our language as long as we live. I mean, you say maroon, I never thought that was maroon. Would you call that maroon? Do you see what I mean? Even in very simple terms, you can keep getting better as time goes on. Is that the kind of case you have in mind? Yeah. I mean, that's a very simple example. You take something like democracy. I wouldn't call that democracy. Would you call that, is that democracy? You see what I mean? There are lots of more interesting and subtle cases. Well, yeah, it's very hard to say this is where learning has stopped. Yeah. Okay, you can come back at any point. Okay, let's look at Fodor's solution. This is causal asymmetry. Okay, so the idea is, here's the problem, here's a diagram of the problem. You have a causal path from horses to the production of the word horse. You have a causal path from cows to the production of the word horse. And you want it to be that only this causal path fixes reference. So you've got to have some way of explaining what's different about the two kinds of causal path. And here's Fodor's idea. Fodor's idea is, once this causal path, it's actually not a million miles away from the learning suggestion, but once this causal path from horses to the word horse is set up, then as a result of the word being used in this way, it will happen that sometimes you get taken in by a lookalike and produce the word horse in response to the lookalike too. So this causal connection comes in on the back of this causal connection. It was only because Fodor had established in his head that causal link between the horses and the word horse that he was then able to be taken in and produce the word horse in response to cows. So this causal connection depends on this causal connection. your ability to be taken in by a lookalike depends on your ability to recognize the real thing. On the other hand, suppose that we took away your ability to, suppose that we trained Fodor. Suppose we took him aside and spent an afternoon and we said, look, that's not what we call a horse. This one we call a cow. Cow, right? You spend a few hours on this kind of thing. And so you take away this causal connection, right? That leaves this causal connection intact. So if you, the causal path here depends on the causal path here. But the causal path here does not depend on the causal path here. If you took away this one, this would still last. But if you took away this one, that one would go away. Because that one only came in the back of this one. Right? If you said, I mean, how would you take this away? You say something like, we've decided it's equinism to call these things horses. We decided that there's something objectionable about it. We're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to get into what we will do. But somebody said we're going to take this away. Then you stop saying the word horse in response to cows too. If you weren't going to call horses horse, you wouldn't be taken in by the cows anymore in that way. Okay. So the idea is, if horses didn't cause the word horse to be produced, then cows would not cause the word horse to be produced either. You following me very closely here? Okay. That's all right. Yeah. But even if cows didn't cause the word horse to be produced, even if we were all trained out of our ability to be taken in by cows, still horses would cause the word horse to be produced. So, in that sense, this depends on this, but this does not depend on this. So the situation is asymmetric. There is an asymmetric dependence of this on this. Yeah. Okay. So this is for the causal connection between cows and the word horse is asymmetrically dependent on the causal connection between horses and the word horse. Okay. And then the theory is, I mean, you can see what the theory is going to be now. If there's an asymmetric dependence between horses causing X and cows causing X, so that this one, cows causing X, is causally dependent on horses causing X, well, that dependent causation here, where the cows are causing the use of the word X, that dependent causation is a causation of mistakes. And it's the one that is not asymmetrically dependent that is fixing the reference. Let me see. Okay. So putting it in terms of possible, you remember possible worlds? Possible worlds? For some reason they're now blue. They used to be green. But anyway, our little blue friends. As you know, some possible worlds are closer to the actual world than others. And what we're saying is, in the nearest worlds in which horses don't cause the word horse to be produced, cows don't cause the word horse to be produced. If you imagine what it would be like if horses weren't causing the word horse to be produced, then cows wouldn't be causing the word horse to be produced because the only reason they cause the word horse to be produced is that they look kind of like horses. So if you've taken away this one, you'd have taken away that one too. In the nearest worlds in which horses don't cause the word horse, cows don't cause the word horse. And there are the nearest worlds in which that's happening, helpfully picked out for you. Okay, now you understand? Okay. I knew you might find that a bit difficult unless I did that. Okay. But round the other way, in the nearest worlds in which, and here they are, in the nearest worlds in which cows don't cause the word horse to be produced, horses still cause the word horse to be produced, because the nearest worlds in which cows don't cause the word horse to be produced are worlds in which everyone's been through a lot of brisk training in how to tell horses from cows, and so they're not taken in anymore, but they still will be caused to use the word horse by the horses. Okay, so there's no appeal to function here. There's no appeal to associative learning. It's a very simple, elegant theory. I mean, in a way, it's better than Dretsche's for this reason. I mean, there's another way which is better than Dretsche's, which is, I said that if you think here's the world of biological facts, and here's the world of truth and falsity, and how do we connect the two, it's very plausible that function will help you connect the two. You might say, well, that actually is just a cheat, really, because when you're really describing the natural world, talking about function shouldn't be there anyhow. It's like talking about the selfish gene. It's a kind of colourful way to describe what's going on, to talk as if the organs of the body are human artifacts, like petrol pumps. But it's only a bunch of anthropomorphic talking to talk about the functions of biological organisms. I mean, all your organs do is they just do what they do. And it's us projecting something onto them to say, this is what they're meant to do. Who meant them to do that? Actually, you don't have to answer that. You might think that it's just really a cheat, the word function. Whereas this causal asymmetry theory doesn't appeal to any notion like that. It just takes a clean, bleak fact about the world. This causal connection is asymmetrically dependent on that causal connection, and says that's all there is to the existence of standards of truth and falsity. But the thing is, once you get to this point, there is a really obvious problem. The problem is, I've got this clean, bleak, austere distinction between two kinds of causal chain. The ones that are not asymmetrically dependent on anything else, and the ones that are asymmetrically dependent. And we're saying the ones that are asymmetrically dependent, they're the ones where you're getting it wrong, and the ones that are not asymmetrically dependent, they're the reference-fixing ones, the ones where you're getting it right. But why should that be? What's so good about not being asymmetrically dependent? I mean, if you were just told, look at this, you're doing a physics experiment, and you're told, look, the way some of the atoms behave is asymmetrically dependent on the way the other atoms behave, and you say, so those ones are getting it right? That'd be kind of madness. What's that distinction between two kinds of causal chain, but got to do with standards of right and wrong? And actually, once it sinks in what that problem is here, you see it's really quite general. If you've really managed to describe the natural world in this clean, bleak, austere way, then you can never get standards of right and wrong out of it. I mean, if you just describe the world in purely naturalistic terms, I say we're only talking about causal connections, or we're only talking about physics, or we're only talking about light at particular wavelengths, or we're only talking about how it is that some causal chains depend on others, which is Fodor's move, then how could you ever get standards of rightness and wrongness out of it? I mean, all that there is just the world going on in its way. But closure theory is important, I think, because it's the clearest, cleanest, most explicit attempt to give a fully naturalistic account of where the standards of rightness and wrongness come from. But once you see what's happened with this theory, it starts to look like the naturalist project is just going to be impossible. Any account that really respects the rules of the game, that only talks about the way things actually go on in the world, the kind of laws that govern the world, the kind of causal connections that govern the world, is never going to be able to extract standards of rightness and wrongness from that. The only way it could even seem like it was going to work would be if you did something like using the notion of function that is kind of slippery. On the one hand, it's supposed to be just a description of what's really going on, and on the other hand, it brings in this idea of what the system is supposed to be doing, what the system is meant to be doing, and that just is a problem that we're trying to solve. So really, it's just a kind of cheat, actually. It just oscillates between being a clean notion and being one that presupposes the ideas we're trying to explain. But once you see, okay, we're not going to cheat, we're going to do the kind of thing Fodor is trying to do, then the minute you get it clear what the project is meant to be, the project looks hopeless. Okay, Wittgenstein gives a quite distinctive approach to the same problem, explaining how where the standards of rightness and wrongness come from. And we'll start on that in the next unit. Meantime, logic and conversation on Monday. Okay? Okay, thank you.